Did y'all know that 8% of people fall in love with their kidnappers? Man, don't make no sense. Like, he crazy. I want this movie to end. Like, I want Netflix at the end of this to give me back my money because I don't understand what the hell is happening. What's up? Hi everyone, it's your girl Umi and I'm back at it again filming today. I'm sorry, I actually had plans to make an entire series and playlist on my channel in which I do my makeup and review different things such as books, movies, TV shows. This series is actually inspired by Kenny JD. She has a whole series known as Bad Movies in the Beat, which she does her makeup while she talks about bad movies, and she actually did make a video of 365 days. I'd watched it like months ago, but it was funny. And so today I decided that I was gonna do something like that, in which I do my makeup because I want to take pictures and I thought my hair looked cute, and basically do a review of probably the most nonsensical thing I think I've ever seen in my life before. Like, honestly, ever. And today I want to do my makeup while talking about the disaster that is 365 days, because this movie is complete and utter garbage. A few months ago actually, I had watched this movie after my friends suggested it to me on our group chat, and they were just like, girl, there's this movie called 365 days and it's on Netflix. And I'm just like, wait, what? And apparently this movie is supposed to kind of be in a way inspired by 50 Shades of Grey, which is very obvious that I can tell that it's actually inspired by 50 Shades of Grey because it's complete and utter garbage. You can tell that they took elements from 50 Shades of Grey and somehow made it even worse than it actually was in 50 Shades of Grey. Can I just read you guys like a quick synopsis of this? Basically, the synopsis of it on Netflix is: a woman falls victim to a dominant mafia boss who imprisons her and gives her 1 year to fall in love with him. Now, there are so many things that is wrong with this synopsis that I don't even know where to fully begin. Matter of fact, I know where to fully freaking begin. Imprisons her. What do you mean imprisons? And I guess this story is supposed to kind of give us a love story between these two characters who fall in love. It's basically about a dude named Massimo and this woman named Laura who end up falling in love with each other. But the story is overall garbage. This movie begins with an opening into child sex trafficking. And this movie starts with basically these guys coming up to this random old guy, basically telling him like, yo, we have a bunch of young girls that we want to pawn off and sell. This movie is already starting to become very uncomfortable. Like, from the get-go, it's already very uncomfortable. And we see this guy, Massimo, who is one half of our protagonists, of our two protagonists in this story. And he's on the side watching this woman who's dancing in slow motion near the beach. And I didn't know at first who this woman was. I was like, who is this random ass chick? Like, where did she even come from? Massimo's father gives him this whole rundown of just like, basically this Mufasa and Simba speech of just, you know, one day everything here will be yours. The sun will set on my time and will rise with you as the new king. Side note, I actually know every single line in The Lion King. Like, that's how often I've watched this movie as a child growing up. And for some reason, very quickly after he says that, the papa gets shot. And I'm just like, damn, like, I guess he about to inherit very quickly. Oh man, this movie's a disaster. But no, he does end up getting shot. The bullet actually goes through the father and into Massimo. Of course, it wouldn't make sense for him to die just yet. He is, after all, one of our protagonists. Also, this movie, interestingly enough, has probably one of the best soundtracks to a bad movie. This movie itself is actually it has pretty decent music, but the story overall doesn't make any sense, so we're just going to continue either way. Did you guys actually know that the guy who plays Massimo is actually one of the main singers in the soundtrack for this movie? is this a way to kind of start his music career? Like, what happened? Turns out this guy actually, let me just give you a quick rundown of like the dude who plays Massimo. He's like Michelle or Michael something something something, but either way, he actually is like a divorced man. He lived on a farm for like a while. It was depressed and stuff, and I was like, oh. The next scene is basically 5 years later, and we get a split scene between Massimo and Laura, who is the second half of our protagonists. And we see Massimo in San Francisco talking to investment bankers. Actually, he's actually threatening investment bankers. That's what he's doing. He's blackmailing them and threatening them. And Laura is, I don't know what Laura does. Like as a job, I don't know what she does at all. So I'm assuming she's like a hotel manager, but like they don't really explain that. Like they never explain anything about her job. But her job is not going to be much of a worry later on anyways, as we continue with this story. Having this whole discussion, Massimo's out here threatening people, blackmailing them. It's a glimpse into both Massimo and Laura's life of what they're doing. Maybe they're like unfulfilled or unhappy with whatever's going on in their lives. And I guess fate is somehow supposed to bring them together, but Massimo has like an ex-girlfriend or something, or a girl that he's dealing with. Not really important right now in the story, but we'll know more about her. Laura is in this kind of like loveless relationship with this guy that I'm just like, how did you guys even end up, how did your worlds end up crossing each other? Like, how did you two even meet? Because in all honesty, it's kind of unfair that these two protagonists are actually incredibly good looking, and yet for some reason they're just both stupid. Which just makes it so hard for me to like this movie, because it's just like, damn, you're this good looking, but then you have to be just utterly awful, both of you guys. We get next an incredibly sexual scene that was so uncomfortable, and it made me just think like to myself, am I watching a softcore porn? Like am I just watching this dude am I watching this dude get his knob slobbed on, and like that's the gag? That's the whole point of this movie, is that it's not actually just a movie, right? Like, two things that I have to say about this movie. One, there are 3 languages spoken throughout the movie: Polish, English, and Italian, and everyone is awful in my opinion in whatever language it is that they're speaking. And 2, the sex scenes are so heavily charged that it actually doesn't feel sexy. Does that make any sense? Who finds this movie sexy? This don't make no damn sense. He gets pleasured by a stewardess on his plane, and I'm just like, she need to call HR. Like, I'm pretty sure he's not allowed to do that, even if it's his private jet. But I guess money can buy you anything, to be honest. So, whatever, right? Anyways, we fast forward, and it's Laura's something odd, something birthday. I don't really know how old she is. We don't really know anything about these characters. Like, throughout the entire movie, we barely know anything about these characters. Like, at all. And it's so weird. It's Laura's birthday. Her cringy, creepy, weirdo boyfriend. I'm sorry, it's just, I don't know how their worlds happen to cross each other, but whatever, they're in a relationship. Gives this super nonsensical speech and sings her happy birthday in Italian, forces everyone else to sing to her in Italian. Another thing about this scene also that I didn't realize is that somehow they get a bottle from some random, like a waiter brings over a bottle to them, and they're like, we didn't order this, and then the waiter's just like, well, it's on the house. We clearly know it's Massimo who brought the bottle, but whatever. I guess I'm supposed to believe that. I didn't know anything about that. The next scene after that, we see Laura meet face to face with Massimo for the very first time, in quite possibly the most uncomfortable thing I think I've ever seen in my entire life in anything.
Are you lost, baby girl?
My dude comes out of nowhere and is behind her, and he's just like saying that. I don't know. The reason why I feel like this is so uncomfortable is because I personally love when my boyfriend calls me baby girl. And now it's ruined because this creepy ass man pops out of nowhere, jumps into the bushes as well, and then disappears after saying that. And I'm just like, What he think this is? My dude just disappeared like he is like some djinn or something. Like he out here just disappearing in the mist, in the ether. Like what? Where did you even come from, sir? Like why did you say all of that? But regardless, the next day, Laura and one of her friends that came along onto this trip are somehow at like poolside. They're talking. It's Laura's actual official birthday, but her boyfriend is nowhere to be found. He comes over, he brings her this like crappy little card. She gets upset, pushes him into the water. But like, it's so weird because her friend on the side is like recording this thing on her phone. What kind of friends you got? None of my friends would ever do something like that. In the next scene, Laura's upset. She's basically wandering around Italy crying her eyes out and basically around streets that she has no idea where she is. Like, which I felt like, who in their right mind does that? How do you wander around a country and a place in which you don't speak the language, you don't know how to navigate through the streets, you don't know how to effectively communicate your way out of situations if you happen to get into it? So personally, I actually blame her for her kidnapping. Honestly, she does actually end up getting kidnapped like completely out of the blue, and I'm just like, what kind of fade to black scene was that? Like, the crescendos just like went up. For what reason? I don't really know. Anyways, Laura then wakes up. She wakes up in this place. She has no idea where she is, but she's not really that particularly concerned that she's in a place that she has no idea where she is. She's kind of just like, huh? And like, another thing that's really weird about this is that Laura wakes up during the day and eventually she leaves the room, but she doesn't leave the room until nighttime. So she was there for a good hot minute and she's just sitting there just like not even concerned that she's in a foreign place in a country where she doesn't speak the language, she doesn't know where she is. And as she's wandering around this castle that's very reminiscent of Beauty and the Beast, and you can tell that this movie was gonna piss me off even more when I saw this, because side note also, I actually hate Beauty and the Beast. Like, I hate the story of Beauty and the Beast so much because the story is basically just a fairy tale version of Stockholm Syndrome. Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, the girl, basically, Belle, is being kidnapped and held against her will, and she ends up falling in love with her kidnapper. You know what's even crazy is that statistically speaking, 8% of kidnappees and abductees actually do end up bonding or falling in love with their kidnappers. Bitch, I bet you didn't know that. The story continues to progress, and in this incredibly uncomfortable scene, once again, my dude says,
Are you lost, baby girl?
What? She ends up fainting. It's being mentioned throughout the movie that she has like a heart condition, a heart problem, but it's not really important or really important in the story, so it doesn't really matter. He tells her like, yo, I'm sorry that we drugged you with some sedatives. We didn't know that you actually had a heart problem. But yeah, basically she wants to know why she's here, and he's once again extremely forceful with her and tells her to sit down and pushes her onto the couch. He runs this insane idea that these two were meant to meet as if it was fate or something. He tells her this story that 5 years ago his life had changed. He lost his father and inherited this kingdom of just drugs. And basically tells her like, while I was laying there dying, I saw you in this vision and you were over me. And I'm just like, this doesn't make any sense. And the reason why I say at first this didn't make any sense was because I didn't think it was possible for him to actually envision her face. Like, it made sense that the woman that we saw on the beach was Laura at the very beginning of the movie, right? Because it's impossible to actually envision someone's face if you've never seen it before. For example, when you dream, every single face that you've seen in your dream, you've seen in real life, or you've once at least seen it while being conscious, and it's just being kept in your memory. I just kind of felt like it took me 3 times for me to watch this movie to actually understand that the beginning scene, it was Laura that was dancing on the beach. So they actually had seen each other or met each other in the very beginning. He tells her all of this, and he's basically just like, I'm gonna do whatever it takes for you to fall in love with me within a year or 365 days. Like, I guess they had to name it 365 days for the for us to grasp the title, but whatever. But he tells her this insane story, and he's basically just like, yeah, I'll do whatever it takes for you to fall in love with me within 365 days. And Laura is just over here like, yo, absolutely not. I'm my own person. I can do whatever it is that I want to do. She's telling him like, yo, I have like my own life. I have family. I have friends that are gonna look for me. But obviously that's not gonna be important later on in the story, and I'm gonna tell you why. He gives her this photo of basically saying like, your boyfriend is, you know, he's a scumbag, he cheats on you and everything like that. And I'm just like, how did you even get this picture? Is this what crazy rich people do? Like, they have access to be able to capture these photos. I don't even know how he would have gotten these pictures at all, but that's not important anyways. He tells her that they've already packed her bags from the hotel that they were staying at, that note something along the lines of, we're already telling your boyfriend that you're leaving him. And I'm just like, dude, you don't even know her. Like, yeah, how did you even come into this woman's life, completely disrupt it and just kidnap her and do all these things? Once again, they get into a little tussle. He pushes her once again, and he's just like, I'm not gonna touch you without your permission. And I'm just like, you're a freaking liar. Like, why would I trust the man that kidnapped me? Why would I take his word to not touch me? Clearly you don't care about me. I don't know how many times that I have to stress this, but she's a kidnapped woman. She's not gonna have that much leeway to do really anything, especially over controlling ass freak like Massimo. So dangerous. Oh my god. But whoever wrote this clearly does not deserve hands to ever write a single book ever again. This story was absolutely just trash. Everything about it was absolutely dreadful. And then somehow this girl pulls out a gun, but she don't even shoot him. And then he's just like, all right, it's time's up. This will stop being funny. Like, give me the gun or this will stop being funny. My dude, it wasn't funny to begin with. Like, you just you kidnapped her. Like, this isn't funny. Like, how do you kidnap her? And not only the fact that he actually kidnapped her, but it's also the fact that his father was killed during negotiations, which he was refusing to sell and sex traffic young girls. Somehow Massimo then ends up sex trafficking a young woman. Who the hell made this story? Like, in all honesty, who actually made this story? And who the hell finds it romantic or cute in any way? Because it's just not. Anyways, Laura ends up going back to her room or something like that. There's like this whole scene as well that Massimo kills someone who's also sex trafficking a bunch of young girls. And I'm just like, this has to be what insane people do. Oh my god, I hate this so much. But anyways, he ends up killing this guy because he was sex trafficking young girls or some nonsense like that. Some garbage like that. Laura ends up leaving her room. She ends up seeing this murder take place as well in the courtyard. She faints again because she has a heart condition or whatever. But like, also the way Massimo killed this guy was just so weird, because it was just like odd, because I was just like, oh, he really crazy. Never mind. Like, he basically tells the dude like, I'm gonna erase you as if you never existed. That's that serial killers say. Like, serial killers kill people and do these insane things. So I don't even understand. I don't understand this movie. Like, what is happening here? Anyways, the next morning she wakes up and Massimo is in her room with her. They get into a little bit of arguing or fighting because Massimo says something along the lines of, we're leaving to go to somewhere. She's like, where are you taking me? I want to go to Poland. I want my laptop. I want to contact my family. But it's not going to happen because he's crazy anyways. They get into a little tussle. He pushes her onto the bed. She slaps him. And it's just like, this is so uncomfortable. Like, who made this movie? But also, she's like asking for her laptop, and she wants to be able to have contact with whoever it is in her life, and he's telling her like, you will have it when it's the right time. She's a grown woman. She can have it now. Like, what? How did you even kidnap her and then she's not allowed to have any sort of communication with anyone on the outside? Doesn't make any freaking sense. The next scene, Laura comes through and she's having breakfast. She takes a nap in this obviously psychotic dude's house, like nothing is happening. And I'm just like, this girl is not for real. And it was at this point that I actually started hating Laura as a character, because nobody in their right mind would ever do something like this. Ever. Nobody in their right mind would go through something like this. But anyways, they have this shopping montage, and Laura's out here. She's trying on a bunch of dresses, spending a couple thousands of his euros, and I'm just like, you're not a sugar baby. Like, my girl, you're not a sugar baby. You're a kidnapped woman. Like, I don't know why she's acting like nothing is wrong in this situation. But he comes in and he looks at her, and then she's just like, get out. And then he's over here just like, I bought this and I can look whenever it is that I want. And I'm just like, ew. But the way he choked her, honestly, it's ruining my life, because I don't really understand this. Like, you ruined it for me. First you're calling her baby girl, then you're choking her, and it's just like, you're taking all the things that I find pleasurable and you're just ruining it for me. Anyway, she ends up escaping very slowly, walking through cobblestone streets with high wedges or something like that, and she ends up coming across these officers, and she's asking and pleading for help, but there's so many things that are wrong with this scene just alone. He's talking about you have to trust the situation. Trust what? That you kidnapped me and you're holding me against my will? And he's talking about that this is something that fate has brought upon them. And I'm just like, this dude is truly crazy. Never mind then. I don't find this dude sexy. He fine though. I want him to choke me. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. No, but I mean, he is good looking. I don't really understand him as a character. Like, he ain't doing it for me. He's just completely just a hot mess. Anyway, somehow in the next scene they end up having like dinner together. Like, what? I don't even know how you guys even got to that point that you're so comfortable with each other that you're willing to share a meal with this man that actually is holding you against your will. She makes this joke basically of just saying like, well, I mean, whatever it is that the chef cooked, just like, well, it's not as good as how my grandmother makes them, but you don't have to kill him. And he gives her this insane idea of basically telling her like, I want you to teach me how to be gentle. I want you to basically teach me how to be a human being and give you the respect that you, another human being, deserves. What? Also, they briefly talk about Massimo's job and what it is that he does, but he doesn't tell her that he's a murdering drug dealer. Not only that, but he has an entire international enterprise. What? And she's not really afraid at all about what's happening. She's more just like, oh, okay, well, I guess I'm just supposed to go along with this BS. He explains it as a corporation, and I'm just like, if this girl doesn't get through her thick head that this guy is a murdering drug dealer, I don't know if anyone is experienced enough in this world, but the last person you want to date is someone who is involved in the dark world. Like, when I say dark world, I mean like criminal business such as drug dealing. You can tell that the people who romanticize this idea or like this notion of dating a bad boy have clearly never dated a drug dealer. As someone who has had enough experience with dating different types of dudes, you do not want to ever date a person that's like this. Like, you wouldn't want to ever be involved with a person that lives this kind of lifestyle. You'll realize very quickly that your life is in danger nearly 24/7 because of this person. And I actually hate this kind of like, this notion and this idea that a woman is somehow able to heal and save a man from himself. It's just like, what? You'll realize, like, again, like I said, like, this movie is very reminiscent of Beauty and the Beast, and it gives also kind of like that notion of just like, you can be able to tame the beast within a man by simply just offering him love and affection. And sometimes in movies like this, sex, which it doesn't make any sense. He's a grown man. He should be able to save himself and be a better man for himself, then later on become a better man for somebody else. But no, that's not what happens. But anyways, Laura ends up back at her room. She's able to contact her mom, and she's like, yeah, I'm fine. I'm not being held against my will or anything. I'm just here. bitch, if you don't tell your mama to call Interpol and help, somebody needs to help get you out. Either Poland's like FBI, whatever thing they got over there, but somebody needs to come and save this girl, because clearly she doesn't have enough common sense to realize that her life is in actual danger. The next morning she wakes up, Massimo's next to her in bed. I don't know how this even happened. Doesn't make any real sense. She ends up going to the shower, he ends up coming in. They play this really weird, like, sexy, non-sexy scene with a song that I'm not gonna lie, this song was good though. He comes into the shower and he's basically just over here taking a shower next to her as if nothing is happening. Yo, his body is let me stop. Anyways, they have this scene where she plays with him and she taunts him or whatever like that, and then he just grabs her from like at the back of the neck, and I'm just like, oh man, I have some real demons in me, bro. Like, don't ask me no questions. Don't ask me no questions. Almost every girl I know likes these kind of things. When I say these kind of things, I mean being choked by their lover during sexual situations. Anyways, the next scene, he kidnaps her once again, takes her onto his private jet, and then there's this really uncomfortable scene of him fondling her. And earlier in the movie, he's like, I'm not gonna touch you without your permission. So why is he touching her without her permission? The subsequent scenes after this really make me, and really solidify the idea that this movie is vastly uncomfortable. Like, it's very uncomfortable to watch this movie, because I don't know if this is supposed to, I'm assuming that this movie was somehow supposed to kind of give us a portrayal of a relationship between a dominant and a submissive, but it's not really working out that well. Because if anyone really understands the world of just BDSM in general, or even understands how these things work, there are varying different degrees of dominance and submissives, right? However, the main important thing in each of these relationships is consent. That's the most important thing in any kind of BDSM relationship. The people in the parties, usually if it's just, and it's most of the time just two people, a dominant and a submissive, have to be able to establish a relationship in which things that are happening are completely consensual. You know what I mean? The entire scenario of this movie is basically just a guy kidnapping this girl, forcing her against the will to do these different things and be in different situations that are just super uncomfortable and super just like nonsensical in nature. And she's not really particularly worried that he's this obviously extremely dangerous man, right? From this point on of them leaving to whatever else happens later on in this movie make absolutely no sense. And this is where we kind of get like a portrayal again of a dominant submissive relationship. However, in this case, let's say that Massimo is basically the extreme of a dominant and she's like the extreme of a submissive, in the sense that she's really bratty. And that's a thing, like bratty submissives are actually a thing. And I was just like, same sis, like I can relate. Like, I don't want to just submit to my man willingly. I want to be able to tease and taunt him and see how far I can actually push him for him to actually push me into being submissive. But the entire movie is just complete and utter garbage in a way that it doesn't make any real sense. Because she does these super suggestive scenarios and things that don't really help me to understand, like, why is she acting like she's not a kidnapped woman? Like, you're in danger, ma'am. You need to somehow figure out a way to escape, but she doesn't do any of these things. Somehow this girl takes a shower in a public fountain for some reason, and I don't really know why she did all of that. It was like, what? These scenes don't make any sense. The storyline itself doesn't make any sense, but these scenes itself also just don't make any real sense. She ends up back at her room. She somehow ends up going to Massimo's room for an inexplicable reason. We don't know why she ended up going to his room at all, really, but she's somehow at his room. She teases and taunts him and stuff like that. She's over here, she calls him a megalomaniac, and I'm just like, but you're also a dumb bitch, so I guess you two really are meant to be together. I hate this movie. But yeah, she's in the hotel room, she's playing this game of like teasing and taunting him, and he gets naked. Unnecessary. I don't really know how we got to this point, but whatever, I guess. She gets naked. He tells her like, yo, you know, touch wet willy. But he tells her like, yo, touch it and stuff like that. And she's like, no. And I'm like, but bitch, what are you doing in his room in the first place? Like, it's so uncomfortable. And then, in quite possibly, actually, this is the most uncomfortable scene of this entire movie. Like, this entire scene itself was actually very uncomfortable to watch, because she gets locked up in the room with Massimo, throws her onto the bed very aggressively, ties her up, and it's just like, earlier in the movie he also said, I'm not going to tie you up. This man don't make no sense. Like, he crazy. But yeah, he ties her up. He also uses like a spreader bar. If I'm sure people who have never really engaged in anything of BDSM nature probably also don't understand what a spreader bar is. But the purpose of a spreader bar is to stretch your legs and keep you immobilized, and every time you move it extends. You know what I mean? He has this creepy ass look on his face. I hate this man. But he fine though. Oh my god. I think that's also the issue with this movie, is that, are they supposed to tell me that these things are allowed because he's good looking? Like, are we not creeped out that this is actually an incredibly dangerous and very predatory man who's forcing this woman to be in situations which are so dangerous? And I can't help but think, like, whoever finds this romantic or beautiful in any way is clearly crazy. But yeah, he ties her up. He brings this random ass girl with an Ariana Grande ponytail. She once again slaps on his knob, and I'm like, I don't understand. Can you imagine? Yo, can you imagine? A dude kidnaps you, gives you this insane idea and speech that he's in love with you and he's been looking for you for 5 years, and that now that he's got you, he'll do whatever it is that he can to make you fall in love with him, only for him to have another woman sexually please him. I'm sorry, I'm too possessive for all that kind of nonsense. Like, a dude can never tell me that he loves me or whatever like that and then be pleased by another girl. I'll be like, nah, you're for the streets. She can have you. Never mind. I don't want you after that. Sexual scene once again that made me once again think this is a hardcore porn. There's no way that I'm actually watching this and these people are not having like real life sex. Like, there's no way. He approaches her again with his fine ass. He's basically threatening her and saying like, you're immobilized enough that I can do whatever it is that I want to do to you. And I'm just like, ew. Like, what? Who do you mean you can do whatever it is that you want to do to her? Like, you need to let her go. You should have let her go at the beginning of the movie. But also another thing about this movie is that I didn't realize this, but if he was smart, he could have somehow faked and said something like, I'm just like meeting her at a club somehow, or doing something that's basically reminiscent of like that Jennifer Lopez movie Enough, where like her husband, the way she met her husband was that her husband set up this whole thing with his friend, and that his friend came and approached Jennifer and did some sort of nonsense, and then the husband came in and then swooped in to save, but it was all like a plan. He should have done something like that. He should have faked the whole scenario of her possibly getting hurt and then faking this whole relationship by being kind of like a savior to him. But nope, he just simply just kidnaps her, hold her against the will. I don't know how we got to this point in the story, but anyways, he gets super sexual with her, only for him to untie her and say, yeah, well, get ready, we're going to my club in 2 hours or something like that. And I'm just like, who the hell is this dude, yo? Like, he is crazy. I knew that I knew I wasn't wrong when I didn't feel bad about her getting kidnapped, because who the hell walks around a foreign country in which you don't speak the language in the middle of the night in like alleyways? The next thing you know, this girl's dressed up with an Ariana Grande ponytail. Bitch, I could never. I'm not having the same hairstyle that another girl had while pleasuring my man. Like, what the hell? And I can tell that they use the same ponytail that they used on that earlier girl on Laura. Like, I don't understand. Like, what? Anyways, they end up at the club, and Laura again is doing this whole bratty nonsense thing of just like teasing and taunting him, and she wears this glittery ass dress that's super short. He pulls her to the side and is just like, what the hell are you wearing? He's just like, don't provoke me. And again, she like teases him all over again. I'm just like, this hoe is crazy. Like, she really don't care about her life at all. doesn't make any sense. Somehow she starts playing this game with Massimo and she wants to like really tease and taunt him. She ends up getting kind of flirty with another guy. He shows up and tries to save her on some nonsense of pulling out 2 guns. I'm like, yo, my dude, like all of y'all are horrible in this movie. Honestly, at this point, I was watching this movie and I wanted everyone to die, but I knew that wasn't going to be the case because everyone was just truly awful in this entire garbage. I don't know when she's gonna take these things seriously, but obviously my dude is willing to kill her and kill everybody else. She's not worried that this man is actually a murderer. Like this whole time in this movie, she's not worried that this man is able to kill other people. Also, there is this guy that kind of plays like a father figure for Massimo, and he's essentially telling her like, yo, you need to let Laura go. You just basically got into a tiff with a rival family and they're going to be the end of you and stuff like that, and you need to get rid of Laura. And he's just like, yo, shut your mouth. And I'm like, if you don't listen to your paternal figure. But yeah, Massimo ends up gaslighting her and telling her that the whole reason why everything happened the way it happened is basically essentially her fault, that her being almost raped is somehow her fault, as if these men had no real reason to actually touch her. And then they get into an argument and he pushes her off the boat. I don't care what anyone says. He pushed her off the boat. Like, that's the honest to God truth. You can just see how he pushed her off the boat. He ends up saving her after pushing her off the boat. Ends up saving her. The next scene, she wakes up. I guess because of her heart or whatever, she fainted. He tells her, like, I'm glad you're alive, but at the same time, I want to kill you. Are you threatening me? Boy, I will kill you and me. Stop playing. I will throw you off the boat, choke you, and then I'm gonna just drown just to show you how truly crazy I am. What? And in this scene, of course, the scene that is so dreadfully long, they finally end up having sex with each other, and it's very gross and very long. Shmang it out, and we had to see every single detail of it. And it was unnecessary, and I was just like, I want this movie to end. Like, I want Netflix at the end of this to give me back my money because I don't understand what the hell is happening. Also, like, she initiated this sex as well, so it's just like, okay, like, we still ain't forgot that you're a kidnapped woman. I don't know how we got to this point, but I guess she felt grateful and so decided to have sex with him, and it took freaking forever. They had sex everywhere on this boat, which led me to think, like, what happened to Mario? Is Mario like not on the boat? Like, can nobody hear them on this boat? They're walking around all over the place, on top of the boat, at the bottom, in the freaking engine room, on the bed, on the canopies, and just everywhere. And I'm just like, this is so long. Like, get me out of this movie. I don't want to watch it anymore. I feel traumatized. I feel hurt. I feel disrespected watching this entire garbage. I hate it so freaking much. Like, there's no way that this film is not a softcore porn. Like, there's no way that this film is not a softcore porn, because there's too many things that are happening that I'm just like, what? He comes to her and he says that, yo, we're about to go to a ball tonight. Why? Like, what does he do that he's gonna be able to be invited to a ball? And yo, like, there's paparazzi at the front, and I'm just like, who the hell directed this movie? Like, what the f? So while they're dancing, we finally see Massimo's ex-girlfriend. Her name is Anna, and she's like upset or some nonsense like that. This Anna girl is basically just like, I'ma kill her and I'ma take the most precious thing that you have in your life. Did y'all know that 8% of people fall in love with their kidnappers? Bitch. Basically telling her like, yo, like, I'm never gonna let anyone hurt you. They end up back at their freaking room or something like that, and they end up schmanging it out once again in another long ass sex scene. And at the end of this, he basically tells her like, you know, I love you, but your ass going back to Poland. I'm just like, what? Like, how do we even get here? How did all these situations happen and we got here? Like, it doesn't make any real sense. Nothing has happened in this movie that's supposed to make me think that these two characters have a deeper relationship with each other to the point where they're able to say I love you to each other. I don't really understand what's happening here. Anyway, Laura is like distraught. She goes back to Warsaw and whatever. She sees her best friend. We didn't even know this person even existed, but her best friend is also not really that concerned that she hasn't seen Laura for however long. To be honest, nobody knows where Laura went, but Laura does end up breaking down the story for her best friend and says, you know, I'm in love with this guy named Massimo and he's this gangster or whatever like that. And again, her friend is not really that worried or concerned either. Like, nobody really was looking out for this girl at all. Like, she was gone and missing for however long she was gone, but nobody was really looking for her. Wait, do you guys see that? Are my eyes pretty? Tell me you like this glitter. I hope it's coming out well on camera. Also, for some odd reason, I just realized something while I'm looking at this on the side, that they have the book 365 Days on the table. What kind of product placement is this? You don't need product placement. You don't need product placement for a movie when we already know what this movie is. Who made this story? Like, I just want to talk to her. Her name is Blanca Lapinska, some nonsense like that. I don't know. Miss Blanca, don't ever make another book ever like this ever again. Anyways, they end up having this kind of like spa day nonsense garbage, and they're doing this whole sequence things of like changing up their hair, but like ain't nothing really happened. Like like this whole sequence was just garbage. But and at the end of this, Laura ended up going blonde in the most stiffest synthetic wig. The roots ain't even bleached or anything. Do they have black people in Warsaw? What the hell is this? Like, that wig is atrocious. Like, that was the most offensive thing. But also another thing that I have to point out about this is that this girl ends up going blonde after meeting Massimo's ex-girlfriend Anna, who was also blonde. Why does she want... Why does she keep changing her hair after she meets different people that have been with her men? Like, oh, this wig is so gross. Like, the knots are not bleached. Nothing is plucked. Like, anyways, Laura's ex, I forgot what his name was, but he ends up back into her life and he's basically begging her and saying like he wants her back. And I'm just like, nah, my dude, he found somebody better. She don't want you. And also, like, he slept with another girl, so why would she in her right mind take you back? But we already know that Laura is a stupid character anyway, so it doesn't really matter. And he somehow ends up following her up to her room, and that's really dangerous. Like, what the hell? But of course, Massimo is there, like, on once again on his djinn vampire basically, and he's just like, yo, she said to leave, like, leave, yo. And Laura is again mad at him, I guess because she hasn't seen him for a while, but what freaking ever, right? And she slaps him and she's mad at him, but of course they end up being just fine because then they end up smanging it out in an extremely long ass sex scene that was unnecessary. We didn't ask for all of this, but whatever, I guess. And in this scene, Laura tells him, I don't need 365 days because I love you. I don't know how. Like, what has happened in this relationship between these two people that's supposed to make me think that these two characters love each other? Like, nothing has happened. They've barely even said anything to each other at all. Their entire relationship has just been a bunch of bantering and nonsense and tomfoolery. Now, the next morning they wake up and Massimo has proposed to her, and this little ass ring. My dude, you rich. Girl, you are not a sugar baby. You are a kid. You were a kidnapped woman who was falling in love with a murdering, psychotic drug dealer. There's another shopping sequence. She still got that wig on her head. I don't know, like, am I supposed to believe that this is actually her hair? Who were they trying to fool? We know it's a wig, stiff ass wig. It ain't moving nowhere. You see this? This moves. This moves because I don't do synthetic, period. What is happening in this film, yo? Oh my god, I can't deal. And Laura introduces Massimo to her parents. He jokes that he's a gangster and they're not really particularly that worried either. Can you imagine if I introduced my boyfriend to my parents and then he says, yeah, I'm a gangster, I'm a drug dealer? My parents would murder him. But you know, I guess different ethnicities you know, parent differently. So I'm not gonna really say anything at all. But yeah, in the next few scenes, really, I'm just gonna kind of breeze through them. It's basically just like insinuating that Laura is pregnant. She does actually end up saying her best friend who ends up going to Italy to visit her or whatever like that, and she announces that she's pregnant to her and she's worried and stuff like that. But I mean, you wasn't really that worried. you about to have a drug dealer's baby, you better just stick it through, I guess. Also, like, there's a scene where Laura is speaking to Mario, like the guy who's like the paternal figure of Massimo, and she's basically insinuating like, you know, I don't think that you like me or whatever like that. And he's basically telling her that she started some sort of problems in the family. It's not that he doesn't like her, it's just that she's kind of come in and started this whole ruckus amongst the family, and he's doing whatever he can to protect the family. So I don't get this movie at all. Like, but yeah, the best friend comes. She's just like, yo, y'all have known each other for 2 months. How did you end up having a baby? But I've known bitches married to less than that, so I'm not gonna say anything more than that. But regardless, her best friend is telling her like, yo, like, you're trapped in a cage. And that's the thing about this, is just like, am I supposed to believe that this movie is romantic even though she's still a prisoner, but she's just being kind of like digmatized and just fully blinded by the glamour, the money, the wealth? Like, it's just like, it's insane. Like, but nonetheless, her friend is also stupid, so she's not really going to convince her anything otherwise, and she's just going to be like, well, if you want to stick through this, I'm gonna be right there with you, sis. Dumb bitches. I can't. Who the hell does that? Ain't no way. If one of my friends were to ever get into a situation like this, they end up almost marrying a drug dealer, I would be like, are you stupid?
Are you stupid? Are you dumb?
Laura looking for this dress, this nice ass cute dress that she ends up coming out with, which then leads us to quite possibly the most nonsensical ending that really made me feel like I just wasted 2 years of my life. Not even 2 hours, but 2 years, bitch, of my life on this stupid ass movie. So somehow, like, Mario ends up getting this phone call saying that there's a hit or something for Laura, that they're planning on killing her or whatever it is, and Mario attempts to rush back home to warn Massimo. And during this time as well, Massimo's also on the phone talking to Laura about preparations and plans. She says something along the lines of like, I have something to tell you when I get home. I guess it's supposed to be her pregnancy she's supposed to tell him about. They're supposed to be overjoyed and happy, but we don't even know if Massimo even wants to have children anyways. Again, we don't know anything about these characters at all. And also another thing is just like, this whole thing is happening and Laura kind of just like leaves her life. Like she's okay with just being a housewife now. She's like, I'm not worried about my career, my job, nothing. Like, I'm marrying this man, that's all that matters. Stupid ass movie. Anyways, Mario comes to the house and rushes, and at the same time that he's entering into the house, we see Laura's car going into a tunnel, and he attempts to warn Massimo about Laura possibly being killed. but then he gets there and he just like shrugs his shoulders and he's like, well. And then Massimo realizes what's going on, and we don't see Laura's car exit at the end of the tunnel. So I guess that's basically just it. And then we see just a camera panning out into the sea, and that's the entire garbage of the movie. When I tell you I was actually so mad at this movie and the way things went, I was so mad for no other reason than I know I did not sit here watch this only for y'all to kill this girl, but unfortunately that's not really the case. Like, it's presumed that Laura is actually not dead, and I'm annoyed because she should be dead because she's an idiot. Like, whatever. Anyways, yeah, there's actually two consecutive books after this, so I'm assuming that we're going to be getting 2 movies as well. A complete waste of time because we don't really need to. This movie is kind of meant to follow in the footsteps of 50 Shades of Grey, but just European and much more heavily sexual. But it was uncomfortable to watch regardless. Another amazing thing about this movie is that I've actually managed to sit here, talk about this entire movie, nearly scene per scene, and I still haven't finished my makeup. So I'm just gonna rant very quickly about this movie. This movie was garbage. Like, I don't know how to really rate this other than say I don't want another movie like this ever again. Movies like this are really annoying to watch for no other reason than, again, it gives this kind of like message of, as a woman, your responsibility, you're able to save a man from himself if you love him enough. But the one thing I will say about this movie though, I keep saying the one thing that I will say about this movie is that this movie doesn't offer any sort of explanation into anything. We don't know anything about these characters. We don't know anything really about Laura's life. So I guess at the end of it, when she decides she wants to be with Massimo, her job and responsibilities back at home don't matter. And it's just like, it's so weird because it feels like this movie is kind of making this to be okay because Massimo just happens to be handsome and rich. As if like those are perfectly reasonable. And again, this movie doesn't explain anything because it has this incredibly dangerous message that people who are able to have money and look the way they do are able to get away with a lot of different things. And the reality is that sex trafficking is a real thing. Like, young people, men and women and whoever, really do get kidnapped and forced into situations similar as to this. So I don't know who wrote this entire book or series, but I want them to never again write anything because it does not make any sense. You have a plethora of just events that are very similar to things and pulls elements from famous stories that we've seen, such as 50 Shades of Grey, Beauty and the Beast, and whatever else kind of nonsense that you can really imagine. You shove them all together into this one book, and instead everything that happens doesn't make any real sense. Like, none of these characters make any sense. The storyline itself doesn't make any sense. At no point while watching this do you really come to terms that, yeah, whatever is happening here is what's meant to happen. But besides the story being so all over the place, the one thing that I found so offensive, besides everything else, is like how atrocious Laura's wig is. Like, what even is that? Girl, this is why white people can't have control of wigs. I'm sorry. Like, y'all couldn't fly anyone from like Atlanta to come do this girl's hair. But yeah, I sat here, watched this, did my whole makeup, explained this movie. I hope what I said was funny because I'm actually planning on making this into a series. I think I'll just call this series Down Breakdown because I love having to do movie reviews that are based upon books, and like I love tearing them apart because somehow people are able to take book to movie adaptations and just completely ruin them as if you don't have the whole entire story already in the book. Like, why would you need to change it any more than necessary? I feel like I just wasted 2 hours of my life in quite possibly the most nonsensical anticlimactic movie I've ever seen in my entire life. These people fell in love with each other like shorter than my freaking orgasms. Like, I was just like, what? How did we get to the events that have happened in this story? But nonetheless, that's basically just the end of that. I hope you guys like my eye makeup. I'ma zoom in so y'all can see. Did I do a good job? I feel like I did, but y'all let me know. It's cute. So yeah, that's basically just the end of that. If you haven't subscribed already, what are you doing? You need to subscribe, hello, and support and stand your girl. Please follow me on all of my social media, Twitter and Instagram, both of which are Oumoomoo. And basically, yeah, all of the things that I've used will be in the description box down below. And I guess we'll catch each other in the next video. Bye.